will be great tonight because with all of us, of course, trying to get through COVID-19 and some of the restrictions, a lot of us are cooking more at home. We're spending a lot more time with our family. That could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your family. But me having my nephew and my son, I'm doing a lot more cooking. And if you're dealing with boys or children, that one meal is it. They're ready for another meal. There's no leftovers much. So I do like cooking at home. When you're busy, it is hard. So I try to get easy meals that people can cook, and then really try to find some ingredients that you already have at home and just add a little things to it to put a little twist to it. And then what's going in the food, and we try to lower the salt intake as well. Okay, so we're gonna get started. I'm gonna lower the camera down a little bit so you can see my hands a little bit. Is anybody following along with me? Okay.
I am.
Okay, great. So what I'll do is I'm gonna start with the pasta, put the pasta on first, and then we'll get started. So kind of everything comes together at one time. Okay, I'm gonna move I got a countertop burner here. So I got about 4 cups of water here with a nice boil. And I just have some thin spaghetti. You don't have to, some people season and some people put oil in the water. That's okay, but when you're dealing with a sauce, what will happen is that the noodles will attract that oil, and then what happens, your sauce won't stick to it, okay? So we're just using just some regular water here to cook our noodles. So I have some pot ready noodle. I love this, so you don't have to worry about breaking stuff all over your countertop. And I'm just gonna put these in. If you're doing this for one person, maybe 2 nice size handfuls. For a whole family, a whole box. Okay, so I'm just gonna move those around.
And Tiffanie, that's probably a 16-ounce box, is that right?
Yeah, this is a 16 ounce. So, and this is something that, for a single person or 2 people, half a box. Single person, you can eat it for dinner and take some for lunch. So that's really good. But a family of 4, I would cook the whole box. And if you got nephews or children that eat a lot, a box and a half. I'm gonna set this on my main stove to continue to cook. Okay. So while that's going, I'm gonna start off with making my sauce. And when you make the sauce at home, it's a lot better because a lot of the sauces that you get have a whole lot of sugar and they have a whole lot of salt, okay? So we're gonna kind of take that salt down a little bit today, okay? So here, the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now, if you do not want to use sugar, you can actually add honey to this, okay? Just some 2 tablespoons of pure honey that will give you that sweetness and kind of help balance out some of the balsamic vinegar and the soy sauce, and then it's a lot healthier for you, okay? So we're gonna add in the orange juice. This is 1/3 cup of regular orange juice. Okay. We're gonna add in 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. This is low sodium. This is 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. Now, it also calls for 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper. You can omit this if you don't want the heat. Add a little bit of that into there. Also, 2 teaspoons of grated orange zest. Now I have my grater here. Now what you want to do a lot of times with oranges, you don't want to press down too hard. You just want to lightly do it and kind of tap it over in. Why? Because I don't want the rind. Okay, I just want the outside edge. Okay, can you kind of see? It's a little, the light is a little dark. Okay, put some light for me. Okay, so I'm just going to tap this over to here. A lot of times if you have a box grater, old school box grater, do the same thing. Okay. We're getting back in the swing of things in education. We got students coming back next week, so I am super excited to be back in the classroom with my students. I'm really excited about that. Okay, about 2 tablespoons here. And this is pretty much the whole outside of the orange. Okay. Then I'm just gonna, you can really start to smell the outside. That orange really just is gonna give it another depth of flavor. Okay, I'll turn my little eye down just a little bit. Any questions so far? I'm also going to add my sugar. Okay. And then I'm just going to take my whisk here and kind of just bring all of that together. Okay. Now it's important to let your sugar dissolve. Like I said, if you don't want sugar, you can also substitute the sugar for honey. Now, this is coming up to a boil, and then I'm just going to reduce the heat. Okay. Now, I don't want that sugar, make sure you continue to whisk it. You don't want the sugar to burn or caramelize on the bottom. I just want it to all kind of marry together, quick dissolve. Okay. So I'm gonna get a spoon here. So this sauce is very, as you can see, it's not clumpy. Okay. All right, and then I'm gonna add in my cornstarch. Okay, this is 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. And again, this is gonna help, this is gonna thicken your sauce. And I'm gonna whisk that to make sure that's nicely dissolved.
Tiffanie, how important is it? I know for the ingredients you've added so far, you can, for a lot of them, you can sort of eyeball it probably, but how important is it to get the right amount of cornstarch?
Oh, it's the difference between a sauce and a gravy. And so you want to make sure that you measure. Now, you can use a regular, teaspoon like this. If you have the dry measuring cups, you can do that, but you definitely want to make sure anytime you're making a sauce, a gravy, a pan sauce, we call it in culinary velouté, or a sauce here, you want to make sure you are whisking it really good to make sure you break up the granules. And then you also want to make sure that you measure correctly, because you don't want it, once you put too much cornstarch in there, keep adding stuff, maybe some water or something like that to thin it out, and then it changes the whole texture of your sauce. Okay. So I see my sauce thickening up here. I'm just going to add it. You want to keep an eye on your sauce because you don't want it to burn. Okay. So you just want to keep whisking. I often tell my students, you want to keep whisking, making sure that's nice and good, nice and thick sauce there. Okay, I'm going to check on the noodles. Okay. There's just about done. here and we'll talk about that. Okay, so we're getting like a little rolling boil here with our sauce. Now, of course, you want to taste as you go, because anytime you're cooking, you're giving layers of flavor. So you want to make sure you taste the sauces. Anything that you're cooking, you want to kind of taste it because it may be too salty. It may, be too sweet. So you want to make sure you are tasting as you go so you can get the right consistency, because the sauce is everything. That's what's going to bring everything together. If the sauce is no good, the whole dish is ruined. Okay, kind of like your rice is great, but your gravy could be terrible. Okay, and everybody gonna talk about you with your gravy. Okay, so if you don't have that sauce to bring everything together, the dish doesn't hold water. Okay. Oh, good. Ooh, got a little kick there. little heavy-handed on the crushed red pepper. If something like that happens, and let's say you overpour, it's a little too salty, add a little water, okay? That will cut that saltiness and cut the heat, okay? But I like kick, so it's okay. Okay, now as you can see, as it starts to reduce, bring this down a little bit, you will see the sauce start to thicken up. So before I added the cornstarch, it was really thin. Let me grab another spoon here. And you want to make sure it's nice coat. You see it's coating the spoon, it's not just running off. That's what we want, okay? Now, I do see some bits and pieces of the cornstarch. I'm gonna show you how to get that out of your sauce. I have a strainer here. What I'm going to do is just pour it over here like this, okay? If that happens, just pour it out into another bowl, strain out those little pieces that didn't quite dissolve into your sauce, okay? Everybody see that? And then as you can see, they'll end up in the bottom like that, okay? Any questions so far? All right, so our sauce is done, okay? So I'm gonna just set this out the way.
I bet it's smelling pretty great in your kitchen right now.
Yeah, I stopped posting stuff on Facebook, and I hope to God none of my neighbors are on here tonight. But they'll say, "You got any more of that lasagna?" Lord, I'm gonna turn into a short order cook in the community. It's okay, when you're cooking for people, and it's always a blessing, I think, to help, people, especially a lot of people are living alone, and you can cook them a nice meal and bring it to them, people that don't get out a lot. So it's always, it's always something we all can do. We all have, talents and, that we can always share with other people. So I'm always, excited to share a meal. Most of the time I'm feeding, teenagers and high school kids. So it's good to cook for some adults every now and then. Okay. All right. Now we're going to kind of go into our vegetables. So then we're going to bring everything together in just a minute. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get my cutting board out. I had a handy dandy helper, but he's back in college now. So I got my cutting board out, but what I'm gonna do is damp my paper towel. What this will do, like in the past, if y'all wanna be careful, it's gonna prevent my cutting board from sliding on me, okay? Now, I'm gonna use about half of this red cabbage I picked up at Food Line today. I love Harris Teeter. I love getting their vegetables. Food Line, sometimes they can be a little hit and miss. But they do have the red cabbage, okay? So get about half of this red cabbage. Okay. Now, you can pull it apart, okay? But I'm gonna just pull that outside edge off little bit. Now, I'm gonna just take a quarter off here, and then I'm just gonna thinly slice it down, okay? Almost like I'm making nice little ribbon cuts. Everybody see that? And then down, nice ribbon cuts, okay? Now you always wanna make sure all of your vegetables are cut the same size so they'll cook evenly, okay? And especially with kids, it's a great way to add vegetables into their meal. Okay, here. Now, when I'm holding this like a clock, okay? So it's not moving on me, okay? Make nice thin cuts, ribbons. Okay, yeah. And then just finish out this last piece here. Take this outside edge off here. Now you can add, if you can see, this is going to add some great color to your dish. Okay. All right, so your cabbage is done. What I'm also going to do now, I have my broccoli florets here. Now you can cut these down as much. I'm just going to, of course, take the crowns off here. Okay. All right. Now I'm just going to do what is called a rough chop. Okay. Now I don't really like eating a big, chunk like that. So I'm just going to kind of break it down a little bit. Okay. And then do like what we call a rough chop on these. Okay. Now you can see, now, of course, you can, with a stir fry, feel free to add whatever. If you have leftover, green cabbage, if you got leftover red peppers, use whatever you like. Everybody's taste is different, but you definitely, put in what you like. But always try to make sure you have good color. Okay. So when we add those nice bright orange carrots, it's really going to make this dish pop. Okay. So do a rough chop again on my broccoli.
Hey, Jeannie, can you tell us what are the nutritional benefits of adding in like colorful veggies into our meals?
Well, usually the more colorful vegetables or fruits are, it's an indicator of a lot of really great phytochemicals. Now, the orange ones also are an indicator of beta carotene, a precursor to vitamin A. But just in general, when you see a lot of color, that is going to suggest that there are probably a variety, potential big variety of phytochemicals, or it could be just one or two specific ones. But when I say phytochemicals, P-H-Y-T-O, Greek word for plant, and that means these are chemicals that are only found in plant foods. And we know that many of these substances have tremendous health benefits: anti-carcinogenic, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, for example.
Okay, now I have just a yellow onion here. Bring my camera back down here. And I'm gonna my towel out here. And I'm gonna go ahead on and slice up my onion so that everything is ready. I can add everything all at one time. Okay, let's off my knife here.
Tiffanie, do you want to, can you comment on types of onions? I have a real affinity for the yellow onions, like what you're using. And I have also read that the Vidalia onions, because they're so mild, sometimes they don't give enough onion flavor in cooking when it's cooked.
Yeah, it's amazing, Vidalia, white, I love yellow onion. I think it adds great flavor, but it's not overpowering in cooking. Red onion is used a lot in Asian cooking, but I tend to like the yellow onion a lot better. Sweet onions is really what, you know, what the individual person likes, but I typically like to go with the yellow onion. In fact, it's the cheapest onion out there. You know, you can get a whole bag of these for like $1 and some change. So that's what, you know, I like the best is the yellow onion. Like I said, it's very versatile and it holds up really well to heat. Sometimes the red onion in the Vidalia, in cooking it, it can kind of get really mushy and you don't want to overcook them. And if you're making like a French onion soup, or if you're making, if you want to, you know, have the onions in a stew or something like that, I really think the yellow holds up the best to the heat. Okay, so I'm just doing a chop on these onions here. Okay. All righty. Ready to go. We'll move that out the way, and then we'll be ready to start sauteing our vegetables. Okay, so we're just about ready. How am I on time?
I believe you are good. You have about 38 minutes.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's move our burner down a little bit. Okay. So I have a really good non-stick. You want a nice heavy duty pan. And I have 1 teaspoon of canola oil. Can you use olive oil? Absolutely. Okay. And I'm just going to coat the bottom here of my pan. Okay. And sometimes I'll look away a little bit just because I'm making sure I got everything in the pan. So I'm going to start off with the onion first because I want to kind of sweat these a little bit. Okay, you'll hear that sizzle. Okay. Now, for certain dishes, of course, you can add seasoning, but because that sauce is already, even if it's low sodium, you still gonna have some salt. So you don't really need to season the onion and the vegetables in this because the sauce is gonna help bring it together. That way you avoid over seasoning the food. Okay, so we're gonna cook those onions.
And just to say a couple of things about the soy sauce, you know, we can get reduced sodium soy sauce, and that is the only kind I ever buy because soy sauce itself is like liquid salt. And even if you buy reduced sodium, it is not low sodium. All soy sauce, even the lower sodium version, has a pretty whopping amount of sodium in it. So you want to be a little cautious about that if sodium is something you're trying to limit in the diet.
Okay, so I'm gonna sweat these down. So you see the color changing, very translucent. This is what I want because it's just gonna release the natural flavor that's in these onions, and that's what you want, okay? Because what happens is, if I add the onions and the carrots and the broccoli and everything together, the water that's natural vegetables, it's gonna end up steaming the vegetables instead of sauteing the vegetables. And saute is it means to cook something in a little bit of oil and a little bit of fat. And so the fat I'm using, of course, is the canola oil. Okay, now I'm gonna add in my cabbage here and my broccoli. And I have my matchstick carrots. Okay, and I'm going to add. Okay, and you see that beautiful color? You know, that's really is gonna, you know, just really take this dish to a great level. Now, if you're really trying to watch salt, you don't have to put the sauce on it. Okay, you can just stir fry the vegetables and have that as a nice side dish, okay? So this same recipe is very versatile, okay? You can just have the vegetable without the salt, okay? And
And you also have the choice of how much of the sauce that you want to use.
right. If you just want to, put enough, just want to put enough in there to flavor, add some flavor to your vegetable, and then that's it, okay? You want to continue to stir this. Okay, I'm going to get a pair of tongs here.
Tiffany, is your heat at high when you're doing the stir fry? Medium high?
Medium high. You have to control it. When you go into, Asian bistro, they're cooking in a wok, and that wok is very high, and it gets screaming hot. But most of us don't have that at home. So if you're using something with very, small size, it's only, inch and a half deep, I can't flip it as much. So I don't want to burn my vegetables. So I need to keep it on medium high and continue to turn. Because I want the nice cook. And because they're cut very thin, you want to continue to cook these about 4 minutes, but you want a crisp vegetable. You don't want it to, overcook them. Okay. So just a minute or so on the side. You want to make sure you incorporate. And you can just flip everything, making sure I'm getting the onion and the carrots, everything kind of nice incorporated together. Okay, now while that's going, I'm gonna go ahead on. I'm gonna break that up just a little bit for kind of a heavy, thick piece. Okay, I'm gonna turn it up just a little bit because we're about ready to finish this dish on out. I'm gonna get my plate here. This is when you really show your guests that you really can cook. Okay, so I have my pasta here. Okay, so you see this, it cooked up quite a bit. Now, can you use whole wheat? Absolutely, okay? So again, whatever you like, okay? I'm just gonna incorporate about a cup and a half of the pasta. Continue to turn.
I also sometimes suggest if people are trying to make that switch to using whole grain pastas, that don't necessarily think in terms of all or none. You can always mix half whole wheat and regular old white pasta.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now let's bring the sauce back. Okay, our sauce we made. You can see it, but it's gonna. Okay, I used about half of the sauce. Okay. Now I'm just gonna incorporate, everything is done, so all I'm doing is just kind of bringing it back together. Okay. Nice heat here. Remember, because that sauce has a lot of has sugar in it, you don't want it to burn. So that's why I'm really keeping everything stirred and just incorporating, making sure that sauce covers all of my vegetables, my pasta. Can you use rice? Absolutely. Can you, eat it without the pasta? Yes. Okay. So we're ready to plate. Bring that back here.
Tiffany,
Yes.
How long do you cook the wheat pasta?
With wheat pasta, if I'm correct, I think it'll take about, 20 minutes or so to cook thoroughly. I use a thin spaghetti, so it takes about, 8 minutes or so. So with a whole wheat pasta, it'll take a little bit longer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Tiffany,
So
I
we
have a
have,
question. Hi,
yes.
this is Kelly. My son is allergic to carrots. Is there an alternative? What other kind of vegetables that would replace carrot? We just recently found out he has some allergies to really some great foods that we love.
Okay. Does
Carrots,
he like
apples, and celery.
well, does he like green peppers? Sometimes ranch dressing. Does he like any peppers?
Yeah, the bell peppers. So we could
Okay.
probably do the yellow and green,
Yeah.
I guess, milder flavors.
And then one thing, how old is your son?
Oh, he's an adult.
Okay, well, the one thing is that, no, a lot of times, the only reason why I say that is because my son is 5 and he is not a vegetable fan. But what I found when I can get in the kitchen with him and kind of introduce some different things to him, he seems to like that. So for small children, but then also with your adult children, cooking with them and cooking for them and with their allergic to different things, incorporate like those peppers. You have orange, yellow, and red and green, of course. And you can get the sweet, the little as well, and then those still give you great flavor. So you can really be very creative with the vegetables. That's why I really like Harris Teeter, because they have an abundant supply of all different types of vegetables. You can also add fresh pineapple to this as well. Just be careful with, I wouldn't put the juice in if you use can or something like that, but fresh pineapple to add a different type of kick to this. Chicken, shrimp, tofu. You can add a whole lot of stuff to this. Okay, how does it look, guys?
That's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah,
That's great.
Very nice.
And as you can see, it's and really you can leave off the you can leave out the pot and just have the vegetable. And some also a lot of times, especially when you're working, you can cut up your vegetables a day ahead of time. I would not do frozen vegetables because they have so much water in them. It'll just be soggy. And you see how this is really presentable. Like this is a great meal, date night or as anything. But you can add salmon, chicken, anything like that will go well with this. And definitely, just plain as a vegetable stir fry.
Or you could put maybe garbanzo beans too, if you want to go vegetarian, but get some protein.
Yes, absolutely.
Chef, you could also use mushrooms, water chestnuts, any of those vegetables to add crunch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and because and that's the great thing about not overcooking the vegetables, because what you want to do is have that crunch and have that flavor and add some texture, because you don't want it to be a one note dish. So you want to add the vegetables, don't overcook them because you don't want them too soggy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Excellent.
So this is a great dish, and I'll tell you, this is probably what, $2 to
Looks
make.
good.
So it's really great, and this is really a fun time dish as well. And you can take this same the cabbage. You can, of course, make a coleslaw out of this. You can put Italian dressing, make a something. If you want to do a cold salad, you can also do that as well. So cook the noodles, cool those down, and then just add like a light Italian dressing. Don't make the sauce, but you can make it a light. And then in the summertime, you can have a kind of like a summertime salad as well. And then you can add tomatoes, of course, to it, cucumber, anything like that.
Mm.
So, a lot of this, and this is just to add stuff to your to your portfolio when you're cooking. And that's the one thing that I always tell people is whatever you want to add. Everybody cooking style is different, but you want to continue to add to it, because sometimes you end up cooking that same thing over and over again. And sometimes we're a little afraid or apprehensive to take chances. So, take a chance.
Well, and I want to just kind of piggyback on what you said about how inexpensive this is for a meal. And that's one of the things I love about cabbage and carrots. And they're not only inexpensive, but they store for a good long time in the refrigerator. And the other thing about cabbage, Jasmine brought up the question about colored vegetables, and I mentioned phytochemicals. Well, cabbage and broccoli, by the way, are both members of the cruciferous vegetables. And those vegetables are known for having phytochemicals that fight cancer and just have lots of other benefits for us. So they're just so good for us, and yet inexpensive, pretty easy to work with. And, you throw them into something like this and they're delicious.
And I will show you a little trick here. If you got some in-laws over and you're trying to impress them, your mother-in-law, but you can, take your sauce, your leftover sauce, and you can just kind of drizzle it on top, okay? And then kind of add a little bit of, flair and peanuts, but you can add a little flair to it as well, okay? All righty.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. Does anyone have any more questions?
I do.
Oh, go ahead.
I do meal prepping. I cook everything on Sunday for the whole week. And I do 2 meals a day on Sunday. But how would this do, like, if I fix it on Sunday, but I'm not going to eat it till Wednesday or Thursday?
What I would do is not I would cool it down. Okay, so if you cook the noodles, make sure you cool it down, and you could go ahead on and prep your vegetables, but do not put that sauce on it. Put the sauce in a small container and then add the sauce to it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.